We are live.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new thing that we're doing here on the BiteMe Games YouTube channel, Twitch Gomies. I'm not forgetting you, and people who are listening to this maybe on Spotify as a vault. Welcome. We're going to be talking about gaming news and what has been going on more specifically for indie game development. We've got a great show planned ahead of you. Humble has decided to go and restructure their entire company, except restructuring means just taking everything out of the structure, as there are no people working there anymore. We've got some fun news with that because we were in touch with Humble. Steam also decided to change how demos works in a very big way, if you ask me. So, of course, we're going to dive into that. What else, Thomas, are we going to be talking about?
I mean, Monopoly Go just reached $3 billion in lifetime revenue, which is
It's
something for us indies to dream about, I guess. As well
yeah.
as Epic just being Epic and being the little schoolboy who's always angry, which is
Yeah.
always a funny topic.
All right, so all of that and more. So stay tuned, guys. I have no idea, to be honest, how long these streams are going to take. It's the first time we're going to do this, but I'm very interested to what you guys are going to be talking about. So we just wanted to figure this out, talk a bit more about the game dev news, because are there many game dev indie news podcasts? I don't know. So here we are adding our own extra podcast that nobody asked for. Let's start with Humble, maybe. I don't know, Thomas, can you pull up? We've got an article from Games Industry Biz, but plenty of other studios have, or like other news companies have talked about it, where earlier this week they announced a restructuring. They surprised everyone, including developers, people who were still working there, where the company basically is shutting down entirely. And everyone is being outsourced. Like all existing projects are currently being outsourced to a third party. There are not many details on that third party. So why does Humble keep going under? Or like, I think that's a great one here, because Humble has done games like Coral Island, Signalis, which has been a massive success. This is not a small like boutique publisher with some unknown games that didn't succeed. The game's Humble Games releases, which is, by the way, independent from Humble Bundle. Guys, if you're worried about that, the Humble Bundles are staying. This is purely Humble's publishing division, where they help with games and game funding. The Humble Bundles are fine. They're going to keep working the exact same way. But I think the question just is, how do you how do you go down? I think there were about 30 people working. I don't know if the article states it, Thomas, if you can
I just
take a
open
look
on
at that.
stream. I'm just seeing if
Yeah.
I can find any specific numbers. Though in general, I mean, this is just the game dev apocalypse continuing. 2024 has been quite a year for the game industry, but hey, we're still here, I guess. Um, but yeah, like Marnix mentioned, there were 36 employees that were seemingly laid off. One of which I had contact with. Just
Yeah.
the same day that the people announced that Humble was shutting down. It was also the day where I reached out to Humble about talking about potential publishing. So the guy responded. He was very cool about it. So it's like, which is very respectable in such a situation. He was like, "Yeah, you might have heard the news." At that moment in time, I didn't yet, and he was like, "Yeah, so let's connect on LinkedIn. Maybe if I'm ever in another company, we can see, but it's not happening anytime soon with Humble Games," which was an experience and a half. But yeah,
Yeah.
this. What do you think about this kind of thing in the industry? Is this a trend? You think, Marnix?
So definitely layoffs, at least, is a trend.
Mm-hmm.
I think what kind of surprised me most is how this is a big publisher. And I think we've seen this trend before. I think Tiny Build was the first big publisher where they were also publicly traded, and their stock has just been tanking over the past 2 years or whatever. I think layoffs wise, though, they have been pretty calm, and they are more of a, we're not taking on new projects. But that approach was not here with Humble Games, I think. They were still, because there's this game Bo and the Pot of the Teal Lotus that released basically last week, signed by Humble Games, helping with the entire production. They even got the physical game cartridges for Nintendo Switch and everything. And looking at Twitter as well, you can see people did not expect this. None of the developers saw this coming. None of the people saw this coming either. So I think that is it's a big of a, the thing also with this article, I don't know how much of this is like tinfoil hat and how much is just like, oh, evil CEOs. where it seems to be the fact that this is owned by Ziff Davis, which is like a parent company also behind IGN and a whole bunch of other online gaming related stuff. It's just like, hey, this isn't profitable enough anymore. Like the Excel sheet doesn't add up, so we just kill it. I don't know how much of that aspect is in here. I think definitely a lot of studios have been using the turbulent games industry excuse over the past few years to just X everyone and like X a lot of studios that maybe they weren't happy with. And even like this isn't the first time a successful looking studio like they have Signalis. They have a lot of games that have sold for multiple millions of dollars, where I wonder how can they not keep themselves afloat. But then you also look at what's the game studio Microsoft shut down? Tango Gameworks with Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, where seemingly perfectly working projects are still being shut down for no real reason. So I think that is a big question. What is like, how much of this is just an Excel sheet and how much of this is actually, there's a good reason for this, basically.
Yeah. I mean, with you saying that, there is something notable in the article. At the end, they have a statement here that say billions and CEOs are making record profits at the expense of the employees who actually create the products. But I believe we have the power to create studios that benefit us and game developers and not the people that only see us as a money printing machine. Which is a very interesting statement when you just mentioned like...
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can go ahead. I did not have much to add here. One interesting update though, because I was preparing for this topic, because the question, of course, that I would hate to be one of the publishers or like one of the developers right now that it's signed with them, because they didn't see this coming either. And there's actually some updates on this. I linked it in the doc if you want to pull it up. The developers of Coral Island, which is like a 3D Stardew Valley kind of game, it's out on Steam. And as part of their Kickstarter that they did was also that they promised a switchboard. And one of the things that publishers are really good in is that entire process of switchboarding and helping you with the validation, platform QA, and all of those things. They now have the problem that they are unable to deliver on their Switch release, most likely, because they've actually been locked out of all console accounts and the Switch account including. So they're preparing a like 1.1 patch that currently they are unable to send out basically to Xbox and PlayStation, and also Switch is kind of not able to even be developed at this point because they simply don't have the account. They only have access to the Steam account, which is an annoying situation, I think, if you're a developer.
Yeah, like you said, but from what I read in the statement from Coral Island, it's that they are pretty unsure. It's not like they are definitely not going to do it or not. I don't know if there's any, like, is anything clear yet on how studios that were signed will actually continue? Do you have any idea?
I think that the answer is no, because everyone's been fired. Who are they going to have to talk to?
Yeah, also true. But for example, if you had funding signed, is it what you got is what you received, or?
Yeah, that's a big one, because also in the Coral Island and like Stairway Games, they're also like, yeah, we can't say that much because of NDAs, and it makes me feel a bit funny because what NDA? If one of the companies, like one of the parties in that NDA, has just gone bankrupt or like closed down, how much of that do you still need to honor? Does that mean that all the money they earn now goes to them, like 100%? Do they need to pay it back? I'm not a lawyer. Probably there are some clauses in this in the article.
Yeah, I think this is... Yeah, go ahead.
This is a PR nightmare if you're one of those studios, basically, because what on earth are you going to tell? Probably the developers themselves can't get any people to talk to them. And these are not small games, once again. Humble Games is not your mom and pop publisher. These are giant games with giant followings. Coral Island, I don't know actually how many people they have in their Discord server, but I can guess it's a fair amount.
Yeah, I also assume this is not the last time we heard from this. There will be a lot of updates, I think, over the coming weeks, maybe even months, because this is not something like if we were signed with a publisher right now and we got this news, I think this would be, yeah, a car crash. And while we may not have all the answers now, I think over the coming months, well, a lot of studios still have these questions right now. They will get answers, hopefully positive ones as well. And I think they will become public once again. I don't think this is the last time we've heard from this big announcement.
I just took a look as well. Coral Island's Discord right now has about 111,000 people in it, all of which are probably in the process right now, like they're saying here. What Coral Island is doing, because I don't think we actually said that, since they're unsure about the Switch release, is everyone is getting a Steam key, basically. But that's 100,000 Steam keys that are, or like probably not that much, but that's still a very high amount of Steam keys that they'll have to be giving out. Steam doesn't allow you to just willy-nilly generate 50,000 of those. So I think they are.
Yeah, they'll have to ask for an exemption. Like that's yeah. Publishers are great, right, Marnix? Why did we want one?
So yeah, publishers are great if they keep existing. I think another question, of course, is with all of this, is it like, do you even want a publisher? It's a very valid point where we already have the bad rap for a lot of publishers who have like very predatory contracts, for example, where they can at any point basically decide to unpublish your game. And now they can at any point also just decide that, oh, this isn't profitable. Let's not like print money. Let's just shut down the company. Where I think there's more and more of the case of, hey, it's getting harder in general just to get publishers because there are more games being made, so there are more people pitching. But also, if you can avoid it, it's probably better to avoid publishers right now because of things like this.
An interesting take, maybe. Maybe you can give your opinion on it. That someone in chat posted.
Yeah, guys in chat, by the way, if you're listening to this on the audio on Spotify, too late. But if you're watching this live, guys, let us know your thoughts as well. This is not just a video. I want to know a bit more about your opinion on this, your stance on this. Very interested to hear.
One of the interesting takes was, we are witnessing a purge of big money from the traditionally creative indie gaming community. What do you think?
Big money is I think it's less of a purge of big money and more of a purge of bad management, where people in their suits in Silicon Valley, who are like the VC funded people, are realizing that, hey, turns out that there's not that much money to making games compared to other maybe traditional software development approaches, because making games, surprise, is very hard. And I think now everyone during COVID was super investing because games were selling like hotcakes because people were stuck inside. And what else are they going to do? Play games. So if you could sign a game and release it in like 2020 to 2022, you were golden. But games take like multiple years to develop. And at this point, it's summer, people are going out again. There's not a single lockdown restriction anymore. So games are just not selling as much anymore. Like, there are so many more articles we could have put in here of like games exiting development. I think Paradox Software stopped development of some of their games as well because people are just not buying games as much anymore. And the VCs are feeling that now. So the VCs are pulling out, is my opinion as well, or like my thought.
Yeah, I think we are pretty much on the same page on that point. But what someone else wrote in chat is, fully agreed, publishers seem less and less useful. But on the other hand, if publishers, this is me adding stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if publishers are less and less useful, I mean, isn't it now more than ever that you need to stand out more, and they have the marketing budget?
So yeah, that's the thing. Also, publishers, it's what do they? Yeah, of course, if you haven't seen the video yet, I made a video on the main channel like yesterday. Yeah, about what do things that publishers do, and how can you as an indie developer do them yourselves, basically. At the end of the day, a big bag of money is a big one. I think something else is also that the style of publishers is changing. Maybe shifting back to that VC, where we're seeing more and more content creator-focused publishers coming up. Like OTK does it. Dunkey, I think, with Animal Well. Was it him?
Yeah.
Ludwig, together with Pirate Software, is starting a publisher. We're also seeing different kinds of publishers where they only handle marketing, but actually do not give you any money, where it's more of, they call it micro publishing, which could also be an approach where they pay for all of the marketing, you pay for the actual game development, you sign together. It's less risk for the publisher, of course. They just have to find a game that's really marketable. So I think we're going to be seeing a bit of a shift there in terms of the styles of publishers that you see. I think I actually didn't answer your question, though, of what was it?
Aren't they more important now than ever, even though they are risky? Because there are more games, there are less people buying games.
I think the reason, though, is also that a lot of a publisher in 2015 had way more value than a publisher today. Because back then, there wasn't as much of a creator economy for advertising, for example. A lot of advertisement was back in physical media. I don't know if you know, but I used to have like a subscription on these are like the game news. Like once a month, I got a physical book in the mail. talking about upcoming games, talking about game reviews. Those were things that you needed contact with, press contacts, going to showcases like Gamescom, for example, going to things like DreamHack were much more important. Whereas now, content creators can do a lot more for you where you don't need as much money. Similarly, with platforms and funding and things like that, not funding, just with platforms and releasing on Switch, releasing on all of the other consoles, you needed to have a publisher in the old days. Now you can just do it yourself. So I think there's not as much to do about it there. Also, something here, streamers becoming publisher boosts streamer bait by Eddie Hedberg. I just want to say we actually have a little bit of a topic later on where we're actually going to be talking. There's a report about co-op games, so we want to stay tuned to that because I think that is where we're going to talk a bit more about the streamer bait style of games. We've been talking about it on the channel for a while already, so I think let's wait with that.
Yeah, another one coming from Twitch is maybe the impact of AI basically on funding. Do you think that the rise of AI makes it harder to differentiate yourself or something? Because
no, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say because like with games being more and more like game creation, game development being more and more accessible each year, the rise of AI making coding easier and easier. There's a lot more fish in the sea than ever. Is it harder to stand out, and is it a bigger risk to even for a publisher to discern what is actually good and what isn't, like who actually has talent and who's just using an AI?
So I think this also depends on the style of publisher you want to go for. I think it's the difference between the VC-funded publisher, basically, where they look at the spreadsheet and they look at the stats, versus the publishers who maybe have actually done some pre-AI successful releases and know more about that creative side. I think that's an important one. Like, not every publisher is created equal. Like, we're shitting right now maybe on Humble Games just disappearing overnight, but there are also plenty of great publishers that are very small, that only have like a portfolio of like 3-4 games that can really focus, and that's less people in there as well. So that's also things to keep in mind. It just depends. I think AI generally, does it have an impact? Maybe, but I think there are more things at play here.
Yeah, I also think they might have an impact, but I think it will be limited at least. I don't think that's the main reason, at least.
Dakota also sent a message. It seems all the publisher can prevent the studio from sending updates, assuming the studio retains the IP. The thing is just they have the IP maybe. The problem is the publisher owns the credentials. Humble Games owns the credentials to the dashboards for Nintendo Switch, for PlayStation, and for Xbox.
Yeah, they publish it with their Steam account, and you don't have the password for Humble Games to make updates. That's usually the problem.
Yeah, so they can do the Steam. They have access to the Steam account, the people from Coral Island, but they just simply don't have the access to the consoles. Also, because consoles, you have that QA process. Like, I can push an update to Steam right now, and Steam doesn't have to validate it. With platforms like Microsoft and such,
especially Nintendo,
they actually validate, like, hey, does this game still conform to the norm, and all of that. So right. I think
that's enough for the first topic.
Yeah, we can keep talking about this, but I think publishers, at the end of the day, I think right now a lot of our audience maybe dreams of having a publisher because it sounds like a big bag of money, but I don't know how realistic it is to immediately get signed with a publisher right now, especially if it's your first games. I think it's really hard.
Okay. Then the second story is that Steam has made some updates to their I'll do that again. Steam has made some updates in the way that demos are shown on Steam. So from what I understand, they now have a separate store page completely.
Yeah, so can you maybe zoom in a little bit on the article as well? Basically, this news hit earlier this week once again, where Steam announced they were going to change things, because this is actually in the wake of Steam acknowledging that Steam Next Fest, it's not really... It's been gamified too much, I think is the best way to describe it. Mm-hmm. I think a great example of this is the live streaming, where live streaming during the Steam Next Fest used to give you more visibility. After the Steam Next Fest, I think 1 or 2 weeks after, Steam sent out an email being like, hey guys, we're going to be changing the Next Fest because we noticed there are some issues. Steam also got a lot of flack, I feel, for this Next Fest about not having enough visibility for the demos. So part of that is the live streams, which are all automated and like run 24/7, will no longer have an extra visibility boost. And then now they also hit us with a complete rework of how demo work, basically. And this addresses a meta that has been going on for quite a while that a lot of, like, especially certain publishers were really doing. And that was the prologue meta. I don't know how familiar you are with that one, Thomas.
Yeah, from what I understand, I remember, for example, Dragon Quest doing it a while back, where you play like the first chapter of the game, then your save progress carries on to the real game, and you continue from there. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so basically a prologue is it's a separate Steam app credit, but they use the same kind of branding, same kind of style and everything. It's just the game name and then prologue at the end of it. That is a free-to-play game, completely free-to-play. And the advantage here, and Steam is also addressing that now, is that you show up in the free-to-play category, which gives you quite a bit of visibility because there's a lot of people on Steam who don't want to just keep spending money. Gives you more visibility. You have things like reviews. And then they use that basically as their demo to funnel to the main game instead of having to use just the built-in demo. And it seems to have worked because Steam is now making it an official thing where you no longer need to actually buy that app credit, and you can just add a checkbox basically to your store page and make a separate store page for your demo. Same approach, it needs to be validated, similar to if it was going to be a main game. You need to write custom, like a full new description for it, everything. So there's a bunch of changes. Also, Steam says that they're going to be pushing demos more in general now. Demos can get reviews and things like that. So I think a lot of changes, but I don't know if they're positive. I think this is something that we've discussed in our Discord server, or I've seen some developers also discuss already, where this may add more of a strain on developers to create basically a demo that is very high quality already. Whereas for a lot of indie devs, like the demo is like, hey, the game is still in development, except that there's going to be some rough edges, but this is what we want to go and work towards. Whereas now, if you're going to lump it in the same category as free-to-play with reviews, basically, how big is the chance that, for example, you're going to get bad reviews on your demo and it's actually going to negatively impact the marketing, even if it's in advance already?
Yeah, that was also my main quote-unquote issue with this. It's having user reviews on demos seems something that can be min-maxed quite easily, because you can make a very polished demo and then a very basic game. You can disguise it under the norm of, hey, it's only a demo, so it's not a lot of content, but that's not everything, right? Also, from what I just heard you say, we could have saved $100 on Songs of Everjade, because for the demo you wouldn't have to submit, apply for.
You still need the original store credit. You can only make a demo from the.
That's good.
Yeah. So the difference here is that now, and that was actually a question I wanted to ask you, we could turn this Forge Industry or the Songs of Everjade demo as well, if you want, into a separate store page. It's a checkbox you need to check on Steam, so it doesn't make these store pages, these separate store pages automatically. It's still an opt-in system right now, which I think is good because we need to figure out how exactly this is all going to work. But the question is, Forge Industry is currently sitting at a 69 percentage review. But I'm kind of like, this is a thing where Forge Industry automation, and there are some issues with it where I wonder, is it actually going to be positive for us to have that change of now you can review our demo, or is it actually going to negatively affect us because people who play it maybe give bad reviews to the free-to-play because they don't expect, or like they wanted more content, they're not happy, and it's going to negatively affect the demos, basically. That's one thing that I am wondering now as well.
What do you think about, just because they now appear in the store, from what I see? Isn't it just even more muddying the waters?
Because
even more entries, easier to get lost, right?
More entries, and also, once again, people will expect more of that, hey, it's a full free-to-play game, basically. And I think that's also a problem. It's double-edged. It's like good, because this means that demos aren't just short bursts anymore, because now it's like, okay, you have Steam Next Fest, and for one game, for 1 week, everyone is going to play your game, and then they're going to forget about it, and then you need to bring more traffic to it yourself. Whereas this could be an approach where Steam will push the demos in, for example, you're looking for upcoming automation games, not just looking on the general store page. You can probably get some more visibility. But I think, yeah, it's going to be more entries, of course. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think for sure the next Steam Next Fest we participate, or just the next one in general, that we will make a more in-depth video about this, like how the changes are exactly working. I am counting on our big content man Marnix over here to arrange all of that. There have been some questions coming in. Maybe let's cover a couple of those.
Yeah, shoot.
All right. Isn't it just a good feat to show your game and get feedback early, or is that naive?
So, I mean, this is technically nothing new. You could already do that with a demo. I think what makes this actually worse now is that your game is going to more give the expectation of it needs to be more polished already. Whereas, I don't know if you know this, like if you go to a normal indie game, because we are not publisher, we don't have publisher funding, we don't have big development teams often. There's going to be some bugs because your game is probably not going to be bug free until the day you release or like a week after you release. And I think there it could be negative where someone will play your demo and then they'll leave comments regarding, hey, this game doesn't feel polished, there's not enough content, whatever. So if you put it up too early now and you have a 5-minute demo, it may actually backfire and you're going to get negative reviews already. And that's the thing, guys, like a review is going to stay there. If you make a demo and the first 10 reviews are bad, or it's like, oh, you get like 50-50 or like mixed, even if you add a whole bunch of content, probably nobody new is going to play it anymore because the demo has that bad rating, even though if you did all of the updates, there's no way to reset it, basically. I think that's a good part of the demos not having reviews. That, hey, I don't have to care that much about the initial reception. I can just look at the stats. How long do people play and things like that? And maybe have like an in-game feedback form. But I think it can definitely be dangerous because if you do it too early now, it's going to be negatively affecting you.
Yeah, something that I was thinking of, and someone in chat actually said something similar, is, for example, with Forge Industry, our demo was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It could have killed our game even more. So what he said was, feels like it makes demos more like early access. If your demo bombs, you might be damned for launch because you have that review on a demo.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think that's something very risky. For example, with Forge Industry, we had a lot of bugs at demo when we released the demo because we didn't playtest. Obviously, it's our fault, and we know. But is it already a death sentence, you think, if you fail then?
I think it is, because that's like I said, like if you get those 10 reviews on your demo and they aren't good, it doesn't matter how many updates you push. Once it has that mixed, people will stop buying. I think you see that with a lot of games like Phantom Fury. Even if they did all of the updates in the world now, it has that 200 reviews of mixed, like people are scared of it. And they would need a very big PR push if they want to break through that. And once again, you probably don't have that. Those publishers before who did the prologue hack, which is what a lot of people called it, they knew that going in. But I think this makes it actually more tricky for new developers to be like, hey, I checked the box and I get more visibility. And do that. We got a comment also that technically, if you have bad reviews, you can just remove the demo page and bring it back up again. I don't know if that works, to be honest. Maybe if it works, yeah, sure. Then it does seem like something Steam would patch, because then you can. I feel like that's open for abuse, because then I could make like 3 different demos and like every week basically have a different approach to my gameplay and use that as testing, which I don't really think makes a lot of sense here. Yeah. So if it's that easy, maybe, but I think once again, we need to wait a little bit more and see how this is going to play out exactly. See a few games actually do it, see some games launch with it. I think especially once the first Next Fest comes out. One good thing, though, I'm going to say this, is that you now get notified for demo releases if you have wishlists. That is a solid improvement. That's one thing that I can not say anything bad about.
It's the part I'm highlighting on screen right now. That's something.
You're sharing the wrong screen. Oh, you just updated. Perfect.
Yeah, you have a slight delay, I feel like. But basically, that's a great thing, because if more people are interested and play the demo, and you actually create a good game, I mean, if they then leave a good review, I think it can also have a positive effect. Maybe this is more the meta where people keep saying, if you just make a good game, it will be fine. We will see. I don't think it's that strong though, but hey, it's worth hoping, I guess.
Yeah. I'm looking at there down below. There's also the infrequently asked questions. You can indeed disable and re-enable your demo, and then enable and disable the page. It doesn't state though if the reviews are being persisted, yes or no. So if I take down the page and bring it up later, if the reviews are being saved, we'll have to see what that one is going to be like.
Yep, exactly.
So I'm curious also what you guys will be doing. But once again, we'll just have to wait and see to see how this actually plays out, and if someone is going to find a way to game the system.
Yeah, and we will cover it more when the next Steam Next Fest arrives. Also, I saw a lot of comments that were still about the previous topic. If you have questions you want us to answer, we will not be doing it right now, but you can post in our Discord. I think Marnix created a new channel specifically for BiteStream, which is the new show we are hosting right now.
Yeah.
So you can leave them there, and after the stream or one of the coming days, you should get a reply. If you're listening to this on Spotify, for example, or YouTube podcasts, then this is recorded live at YouTube and Twitch on Saturdays, usually around 8 p.m. CEST. So
we'll have to see how the time works.
Yeah, for now at least. But
we just committed to this currently.
Yeah, but be sure to come say hi next time. Maybe let's go to the next topic, which is probably the biggest news of them all.
The source of this is us.
So it's very reputable.
Very reputable. We're going to Gamescom. I just wanted to bring this up. It was something that, because I wanted to bring this up because a lot of developers are maybe like, hey, is it worth to travel to these events? So I quickly want to talk a bit more about our thinking about it. What are we planning about that? All of that stuff. So this week, basically, we committed on the entire team. Me, Thomas, William, and maybe also Jamie are heading down to Gamescom Wednesday through Friday this year. So we're planning a bunch of content there. If you see us, come and say hi. I've already heard of a lot of viewers who will also be going to Gamescom. But I think an important one is, why are we going to Gamescom? Because I actually originally wasn't going, and I wouldn't be going for content. I ended up caving. But I think we actually have some plans about Gamescom that also tie into publishers, which is why we also reached out to Humble. So Thomas, can you maybe give a bit of an idea? What are we actually hoping to achieve from Gamescom?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things we want to do. Like Marnix mentioned, publishers is one of them. We've been reaching out to publishers to maybe pitch Guild Architect, but also just see how the whole pitching process goes, so we can make content on that for you guys. Ideally, we are also obviously looking for a publisher because, hey, at some point, Marek has to eat.
Money would be nice.
Yeah, and money buys food. That's usually how it goes. So that's one of the things. Another reason is, of course, making even more content. It's the biggest gaming convention, I think, in the world.
It's like GDC might be... The thing is, GDC is a B2B conference, so only companies can go there. Gamescom is a mix of just regular consumers going to the Genshin Impact booth or whatever and cosplaying and buying merch. But there's also 3 halls. Like the thing, if you have never gone to a conference like Gamescom, you cannot comprehend how large this is. I was talking to Thomas about this as well last year, where we had gone to conferences before, and I told him, like, Thomas, you do not understand how big this is. Gamescom, I think, is really good in that regard, into the size of what you get conference-wise. Yeah. And there's, I think, like 3 giant halls just with companies and like B2B for game developers. Yeah.
And the big 3, you have to think like the Sonys, the Xboxes, and the Nintendos of the world. They have like basically entire... Okay, maybe they're not coming this year, but I mean, like last year, they literally have an entire building basically, where it's like a big wall so no one can see. And then if you have a meeting with them, you go there to like a front desk, and then you go inside and you're basically inside a complete, like the size of a house, basically. It's really insane. Like I thought I knew what the scale was, but damn. It's very impressive, that's for sure. But yeah, I think the main things are content, meeting viewers, because there's this guy who really wants to go to Burger King with us. Maybe we see him there. And of course, hopefully we can also do the publishing part. But that's a bit rough right now.
A big one.
Yeah,
but I think the important one is, if you go to a conference, that's the mistake we did last year, and that's my tip. If you are like, hey, I'm looking for publishers, and you're listening to this right now 1 month before the conference, you should be sending emails like right now. Stop listening to this and start
Yeah.
sending emails to publishers, because if you're on Gamescom and you're hoping to just walk around and pitch your game, it's not going to happen. I have bad news for you. We learned that the hard way last year.
People are already fully booked. You have to make sure that you are on their agenda, or they won't have time.
Yeah.
So that's really important indeed.
So yeah, if you're going to Gamescom, come and say hi.
Yeah.
We'll probably be walking around there.
All right. Next topic, and that is Monopoly Go. It had just reached $3 billion in revenue. Just to sketch it a bit, like the picture of how much that is, Marnix wrote down here, that's more than Baldur's Gate 3, massive game. Stardew Valley, biggest indie game ever. Or don't quote me on that.
I think it's the biggest. It's like $120 million in lifetime revenue.
At least one of the biggest. The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. Massive titles, right? All of them combined sold less than Monopoly Go. Why are we making Steam games? Why are we not going for the casual mobile markets?
Yeah. So the question I have here basically as the discussion point is, are we as indie developers sometimes too proud of the indie sphere and being like, oh, we have to release on Steam, and just ignore mobile, even though mobile is an irrefutably giant market at the end of the day? Oh yeah, Minecraft also in chat is the biggest indie probably, but even Minecraft, I think Minecraft sold for $2 billion and Notch got like 1 billion of it. That is still less than Monopoly Go. So Baldur's Gate 3 is at like 700 million. You can have a Minecraft, Baldur's Gate 3 and Stardew Valley combined, and it would still not reach Monopoly Go levels of earnings.
That's insane. But yeah, is this maybe the big corpo thingy that the people mentioned, the big money? Because I agree with that. Probably almost every indie, us included, is too quote unquote proud to release for mobile, because a lot of people feel like the indie dream was probably built for PC, I feel like. And then maybe once they make it big, they go to consoles. But I think the mobile market is not something a lot of people are thinking about yet.
I think it's also a demographics reason why a lot of people, because who are the people who play Monopoly Go? It's not the same people who play Steam games. Yeah. And I think a lot of developers can often be dismissive of, oh, I don't want to make Facebook games or whatever, because that's what, like Monopoly Go, by the way, guys, I don't know if you know, it's basically a slot machine.
Yeah, most mobile games are.
It's a Mr. Beast video with in-app purchases as a game, basically, is the best way I can describe it, with like pop-ups everywhere, and it's like really designed to keep you hooked. There's like auto dice rolling, so it's like you literally don't even have any gameplay if you don't want it, and you can just pour money into it. It's similar to like Candy Crush. There was this very funny story I read once where some mom like beat literally all of Candy Crush, and she sent like emails to the developers of like, when are you adding more levels? But it's like a crazy amount of levels that Candy Crush have, and they like respond with like, maybe you should do something else than play Candy Crush, because you're doing too much. Now, I think in all seriousness, why are also people not making mobile games? I think a lot of indie devs are actually trying to.
Yeah, you cannot compete.
Yeah, that's a big one. And in chat also, where it's more high risk because you need things like advertising budgets. If you go into mobile development, it's much more like data driven. It's much more based on how many users are playing this, how many users are returning after like 7 days or within 7 days. So it is much more of that like gambling aspect as well, maybe is like giving it maybe a bad name, but it is a different mindset I think you need to have as a developer. I think you can make some decent money out of it still. And there are some good indie games as well. One that I played recently that was made in Godot is like Usagi Shima, Bunny Island, which is just like an idle game where you have a little cute island with bunnies and you can get them little stuff. It's a different kind of game generally that you need to develop for, but I think depending on the style of game, like also hyper casual games could still work, or like different kind of games. I'm no expert on it, but I think definitely you shouldn't just dismiss the mobile market. I think the article says it as well. So we're talking about 3 billion lifetime revenue, but they're looking at this quarter, 100 million or something in revenue, which is still a nuts amount, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. That's yeah, one of the reasons I think why people cannot compete is indeed the marketing budget, but also we recently did like a tier list. I don't know if it was on what platform it was. It was YouTube or Patreon about the different kind tier listing the game dev types we did,
Yeah.
and one of them was the KPI dev. The KPI dev is the kind of people they are the kind of people that make these kind of games. I feel like, or at least they are in this kind of business, because a lot of the indies they want to make a good game, they want to tell a story, or they want a unique experience, whatever. If that's you, this is probably not the market for you. While if you are very data driven, if you're a data scientist or something, then maybe going into the gaming industry, you can create a very simple game, for example, an idle game, and then there is probably a chance that you can actually make it purely from your data analysis, because you just have to make the most addicting piece of crack cocaine game there is, basically. So people never quit, and the numbers
Yeah.
just keep rising.
And when we say like, oh, it's gambling games, I'm like serious. Like, guys, pull out your phone right now and pull up like the Play
Yeah.
Store and see it like top grossing games, and it's like literal slot machines, and they're not even trying to hide it. It literally has like slot in the name and everything. I think the AMP in Twitch chat also really says it, where Monopoly Go isn't made by passionate game devs. That's like the idea. I don't think anyone, like any indie dev, wakes up and it's like, I'm gonna work on my dream game, and it's going to be a game where you basically do gambling and try and get as much money in like an idle. Like, generally they want to tell stories, they want to give experiences. I don't think there's much of an experience with Monopoly Go in that
It's
regard.
funny you said that, and like Wednesday or something, I did stream working on our gambling mechanic in Guild Architect. Only not with real money, and we call it wagering from now on.
That's the thing. It's not like in-app purchases and like looking at, okay, we need to sell more and more and more and more.
We are not preying on people their addictions, which I think a lot of mobile games are actually doing.
Yeah. Speaking of mobile, Epic Games keeps being angry, and they actually pulled Fortnite off the main mobile store. So the Play Store, the Apple Android, like that. Yeah, Play Store, iOS App Store, and even for some reason, I think also in the article it mentions they pulled it off the Samsung App Store, which I didn't even know anyone used it.
From what I understood, it was they mainly did it because of a new policy that Samsung introduced on the Galaxy Store, which was by default blocking sideloading of apps, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it, and they were making a statement, something like that, which is very Tim Sweeney and Epic.
Yeah, I think Epic Games is reaching the point now also where they just keep yelling at everything, but they're not doing the greatest right now. And why are they actually pulling off Fortnite from the Play Store once again and like the App Store? It's not because they got kicked off this time by violating some rules. They're actually planning to launch, I don't know if it's going to be called the Epic Game Store, but they're planning to launch their own store now that they have the legal framework to be allowed to do it. To release Fortnite. So they actually took it off now, and then probably in like a few weeks at most, you can download it again, but you have to download the Epic Games mobile launcher or whatever it's going to be. I don't think they've announced the exact name yet.
Yeah, the publisher announced that its mobile games will be available on Alt Store on iOS in the European Union, and at least, quote unquote, they quote at least, 2 other third-party stores in the near future. And they also confirmed that their own storefront will have the same terms as the PC store, so the Epic's Game Store, and that developers will only be subjected to 12% processing fees.
Yeah, so basically similar as Epic Game Store. The question, though, I have here is, who cares?
I think a lot of people actually care, because I think Fortnite is still really big.
I'm not talking about Fortnite being pulled down. I'm actually talking about them launching their own, like, developer-friendly, so to say, app store. Because they tried to do it already with the Epic Game Store. And honestly, we have an Epic... we've been gearing up for the launch of our own Steam page for Guild Architect, right? I had literally forgotten we have an Epic Game Store credit. I'm not even joking. I realized it like a week ago.
Do we have it?
Yeah,
I also forgot. We probably mentioned this, but
we have an Epic Game Store credit, but honestly, it's horrible. It's worse than Steam in their UI, in how to set it up.
I mean,
They're
I
like,
think it's what you say is it's worse than Steam. I mean, Steam has a lot of features, if that's what you
but
mean. And
no, I mean like the UI and things like
I
that.
mean,
Like
that's subjective. Huh?
Steam has not been updated UI wise, like the Steamworks dashboard for developers in the past
20?
15 years
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. So you're like, hey, Epic Games is coming in. Maybe this is how they're going to differentiate. They're going to have a better user experience. No, it's horrible. I need to fill in Google Forms for certain things and then hope someone emails me back. That is not the approach, I think. But my main thing here basically is, if they can't get their Epic Game Store running, have they learned nothing? Why would I suddenly want to install their different app already? The first thing I do when I buy a phone is disable the default like Samsung store or whatever, because it's probably not worth it.
So you are saying that you, Marnix, are encouraging monopolistic behavior by only supporting one store. Is that what you are saying?
I'm gonna get an angry Tim Sweeney email after this
I
stream,
mean,
but
the
that's
police is already coming. It seems.
that's not what I'm going for. I just think that it's the same story. Like, people are like, yeah, Steam is not worth it. Other people are like, Steam is worth it because they give a lot of marketing. And it's like, you can make the same argument maybe for like Play Store. I hate Apple with like how they're like, oh yeah, if you use a different store, they have like, yeah, you still need to pay us. So I don't know about that. I just think the problem is also they're not creating an environment that is actually friendly for devs, because there's no user base for it. It's the same thing as looking at like YouTube competitors. YouTube is a monopoly, and people want to make like YouTube alternatives because there are inherent problems with YouTube as well. They are taking large splits and like large amounts of money. They're demonetizing a lot of specific like creator genres, but still it has the user base, and people are not going to leave the Play Store if they can avoid it. People are not going to leave YouTube if they can avoid it. So I think it's not actually giving you any advantage to putting your game on the Epic Game Store. We'll have to see when we put up Guild Arctic, but I have expectations that are like below the ground, basically, in terms of wish lists or whatever the Epic Game Store equivalent is.
If you release it on itch.io, for example, Guild Architect, do you
Would it
think
get
it will
more?
be better or worse than the Epic Game Store?
I generally, from the experience I have with itch.io, I think itch.io actually has decent visibility rules.
Yeah,
I think it's
I
pretty
also
fair
think
still.
audience-wise, itch.io is probably a lot more.
Indie focused.
Yeah,
I think the thing is like releasing, I think itch.io definitely is like a price ceiling if you're not making an adult only game. It needs to be like $5 or below. But I think just if you're like doing demos and things like that, you would be better off putting them on itch.io than on Epic Game Store, I believe.
yeah,
Because also the only people who use Epic Game Store, in my opinion, are like the ones who do like, oh, you get all of these games for free if you install the Epic Game Store. But
yeah.
they actually don't care about more of the indie titles and things like that.
There was a time where I had the Epic Game Store installed, and I just collected the weekly free game.
Yeah.
And then I realized, hold up, I don't have time to play games anyway. So why would I need these free games? I'm going to work on,
Making
on
your
our own games. And when I'm actually playing a game, I want to pick my game and not just some random games that I've gotten. So
it's also a question that I asked at some of the conferences where we were at, where it's like, oh, people are like, oh, where can I find the game? And I'm like, of course you can wishlist it on Steam. Were you expecting the Epic Game Store? And no one is like, yeah, actually, I use the Epic Game Store. I like talk to actual players, and they're like, yeah, I don't care about the Epic Game Store. So we'll have to see from that.
okay, cool. I mean, it's nice, I think, that there are more stores coming up, because the EU is being a big bodyguard for the consumer and thinking there should be more. It should be monopolistic behavior. But I also think in pure Apple fashion, for example, they allow it, but they make it so inconvenient that no one will do it anyway. So at one point, from one point of view, I understand what Epic is trying to do, and it's actually very pro-consumer. At least the intention behind it. Of course, there's money for them in it, so it's good for them as well. But on the other hand, I always feel like it's a dead fish, like on a beach, just trying his best. But I don't think it will account too much in the end.
I think Epic Games definitely has it similar with like the UEFN, like the Unreal editor for Fortnite or whatever, has also had limited success.
Oh,
Also in chat, I'm not an Unreal developer, but
yeah.
Rex is like, don't forget about Unreal devs who have
You
to use
need
the
it.
Epic Games launcher. I did not know that you needed it.
I forgot about it. Yeah, it's actually a great point. Like, how much of the market share do you think
It's just
is just
developers.
developers?
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny. But yeah. Also,
Also, another comment that I
go
see
ahead.
is I bet you love the monthly Unity Asset Store freebies. I didn't know Unity had freebies on the Asset Store.
I mean, even if they had, they probably wouldn't give it to us anyway. Because I don't
Yeah,
know why, but they don't seem to like us.
they don't like us. So
We like them though, because we're working with Unity. So please, Unity, if you're watching this or listening to this, come say hi at Gamescom as well. We'd love to be
Yeah.
friends and make up. I was almost going to say make out, but that's very weird. So let's not do that. I see that a couple of messages are being blocked by the bot. We will update it for the next stream.
We are still very much trying to figure out this streaming madness. So I hope the general experience so far has been all right. I think we have like kind of two main topics, but they're kind of related still. And they're both related to Steam, which is our main platform and the platform people actually use instead of Epic Game Store. You can choose, Thomas. Which one do you want to start with? There are no sleeper hits or the rise of the co-op game?
Let's start with the rise of the co-op game, because I think there are no sleeper hits is a banger of a topic. Okay. And I want to end with a bang. So
you wanna, yeah. So this is from the source VG Insights, which is like a resource that you can do to look at like what are the games being released on Steam. Video Game Insights, yeah, like it says here. It talks about the different, like how many reviews, how many people are playing it, average player counts, how many games are being released, all of that. And they released a report. Can you go back up so I can see the title again? But I think it's basically called The Rise of Co-op Games.
Yeah, they call it The Rise of Co-op Games, just hanging out with some friends, basically.
Yeah. So and I think the first thing we need to say here is that we'll talk into the evidence in a second, but we actually made a tier list at one point where we actually gave co-op games like a D tier or something.
Oh, no.
We were like, don't do co-op games, or like I think party games was the actual genre we did.
I mean, but on another tier list, or a video at least, recently I said my next game I want to make is probably a co-op game.
Yeah, so I think we definitely
part of the problem,
changed opinion.
And we changed opinion. But the graphs are at least very interesting. So in like 5 years' time, it's more than doubled the amount of co-op games, which you have to, of course, see in relation to how many games there are in general. Yeah. But we will cover that soon. And it's in general, it's a very interesting read, because like if you see here, only 6% of the games released are actually co-op games, but they amount for 36% of the units sold, which is like crazy when you think about it.
I think one thing to keep in mind here is units. I think if a revenue would be a different number, because co-op games often are a lot cheaper as well. Comments in chat are also like, oh, so this is not just a co-op spike. That's indeed a COVID spike, sorry. That's indeed what I saw as well. COVID years had a bit of a normalization. It's also included in the graph, actually. I don't know if Thomas can pull it up, where there definitely was a bit of a boost due to COVID in the amount of co-op games and how many people bought it. And then it calmed down after like 2021 and stuff. But now it suddenly just spiked up all over again. And I think it's with a few games that are really taking the world by storm. Pal World, which was released earlier this year, giant co-op game. Helldivers, content warning. I think also Lethal Company is not included in here. I mean, definitely co-op games have become more of a meta.
They even show Among Us.
Yeah, Among Us is like one of the... Among Us released in like 2017, 2018. We'll actually talk about Among Us in a second, but only got picked up once again due to that COVID spike by just being on the market already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in general, I assume we are linking the sources in the video description down below anyway, at least when this is uploaded as a VOD. And it's like 13 pages, so we probably won't be covering everything, but it's definitely, if you're interested to see like the gaming market and how it evolves, you should probably read it.
Yeah. There's one more interesting stat, because when we talk about games like Pell World and Helldivers and Content Warning, maybe you're gonna be like, oh, but those are big games. Those are not indie games, right? Like, that doesn't matter. The thing is, there is still they talk about it as well, even small games like indie games that barely get any reviews, like the top 20, the bottom 25% of Steam games, still have over double generally the amount of sales and the amount of reviews basically versus non-co-op games. So even for us lowly indies, co-op games can actually be a benefit as well.
Yeah, I think you're mentioning this graph
Yeah,
where they
I'm mentioning
compare
that one
co-op
indeed.
versus non-co-op. So yeah, indeed, they sell like 8 times the amount of, or at least copies, not in revenue, and even the bottom of the barrel, so the worst performing ones, are like 2.5 times as good
Yeah.
sale wise. So right now, at least, this is a very good genre to tackle. But you have to think, oh, I'm going to make a co-op game right now. It's a hype. By the time you're done, the market might be different.
You're on the
So
wave. Like, you need to,
yeah,
I think we can also get into it in a second. Actually, if you go to the next slide, it talks about like what makes a good co-op game. Like, why do they stand out so much? You need to be fast. I think we saw something similar with the Survivor likes, where people who saw like, oh, Vampire Survivors is big, I'm going to make my own Survivor like. The ones that spent like 2 years developing are not really getting as much of a return on investment versus the ones who maybe were already a little bit more experienced devs and just took that core Survivor mechanic and added one extra thing on top of it and shipped it as fast as they can, riding that wave of people liking the Survivor likes. I think definitely that is something we may have to do here as well, because I think this might be a temporary trend of the gaming market right now.
yeah,
And that leads into the thing of, hey, why are these games actually so popular? We've talked about it as well. It's like the concept of streamer bait, which maybe has a bit of a bad connotation, but it's basically designing a game that is great for content creators to talk about, because that is how you get the word of mouth, how you get the awareness. And this graph talks about 4 main key pillars here. It's being a shareable game, so people want to talk about it, like Chain Together, for example. Everyone, like even William and Thomas, are like, I want to play Chain Together, which
we want to stream it with
they
you, but
yeah, they barely talk to me about games. And even if they start talking about games to me, I know it's something big. It's a
I
memeable
mean,
game.
not
You
when
look at,
William talks about it, when I talk about a game. Because
yeah,
William talks about every game. He plays every game.
it's memeable and streamable. So look at people like Kaisenat taking, and I think I Show Speed doing a collab stream where they played Chain Together whilst being chained together. Like, that is peak content. Or it's like all of the Rage games, once again, which are great for content creators, because negative emotions like losing a lot of stuff on Jump King makes them sad. And it can be replayed for a long time. Like co-op games like Among Us, they're actually like, there's no story or whatever. It's the people who make that, so it helps with the replayability. And streamers can play the game for a long time. If you're making a game that takes 8 hours or whatever, and it's like a single player story-based game, that's like 2-3 live streams at most for someone. And they have to find new content already. And other people maybe wouldn't be as interested because they already saw the entire story on the stream. So that is, once again, where Among Us is one of those games where you look at other streamers play it and they're having a lot of fun. So sure, if I play it, I'll also have fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically you see a lot of people have fun together, and then you want to do the same with your friends. And someone in chat mentioned, hey, but if people need every person that's playing needs a copy. So yeah, that's kind of the point. That's probably why they outsell so much, because I'm the one convincing Marnix and William to play a game with me, while otherwise I'm just saying, hey, I'm playing this cool game. While I keep
Yeah.
trying to convince Marnix to play. So I think that's part of the model as well, because if you can see, you need people to play together. So if I really want to play it, I need to go out and find friends to play it with, basically.
Yeah, and that's what we originally gave it like the bad points for, but turns out that more people have friends than I expected, I guess. Another thing to keep in mind is that you don't always have to buy new copies. I think if you buy Don't Starve Together, you also get like an item in your Steam inventory where you can gift the game to someone else, like one other person, which also is something you can do. The streamer games also like Chain Together. It's like $5 or €5. So it is cheaper as well, and more people buy it. So it like kind of cancels out maybe. That's also why I wanted to talk like the graph would also be interesting in the report they have if it talked about earnings versus just the amount of copies sold. Because if you then compare it to like the $60 games, the AAA games, it probably isn't as impressive anymore. But in terms of just raw units, I think it is pretty solid.
Yeah, I completely agree. So a couple of more questions from chat, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, go for it.
when are you making a waifu streamer bait co-op game, Marnix? Go for it.
Are we? Is this our approach? Are we canceling Songs of Everjade?
We already
Not
cancelled
Songs-
Songs of
Yeah.
Everjade.
Are we canceling Guild Architect, reusing the assets and making it a waifu streamer bait? We
Yeah,
get like
but
those,
then we cannot
those-
reuse the assets. Huh?
Why not? We get some high poly waifu characters of the asset store, just put them in the game and make it janky and make it co-op and just ship it.
I mean, there is a sale going on right now for creators. If we ever become part of it, it's just all waifu models. Is that what you're saying?
All waifu models, jiggle physics, like toolkits, whatever. Who put it in there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's for when we fail as BiteMe Games and become sellout studios. We already have a backup plan, so
We got it all covered, guys.
yeah.
Another one is a comment here also. I can't see co-op games being such a fad like a specific genre like Survivor likes. I think it's not going to go away. Like Survivor likes are going to stay as well. It's just going to be a thing where streamers, also the fact that streamers are picking this up, you need to remember streaming goes extremely fast. Every 6 months, basically, the entire content creation meta changes. Like one day everyone is playing Valorant, and then the next day everyone is playing like some other game. Yeah, so it changes extremely fast, and these kinds of games, they live or die by streamers playing it. So if they stop playing it, I think the genre definitely is going to get back to like getting reset again, basically to those normal baseline levels.
Yeah. Are we going full circle and saying you need a publisher to do this? And
so I don't think you do, but I talked about this in my Develop Brighton video, because I went to Develop Brighton and there were some publishers talking there, and they are like, hey, we are actually looking for these style of games right now because they're lower in budget, so it's less risk for them. They're quicker in development cycle. It's easier to market. They just basically, it's what Murky Divers did. Murky Divers is one that I talked in the stream earlier before about the micro publishers, where they develop the game and then the micro publisher just deals with all of the marketing. They did that. It's also a co-op game. It's like a horror game, kind of like Content Warning, kind of like Little Company. You pay a few big streamers like Vanos and like other ones to play the game. And once a few streamers play it, like it's all one big circle jerk, then other streamers will pick up on it as well, or they'll want to join other guys' streams. And that's how you get that start, basically. So it's much easier to market than a single player story-based game, for example. There's just not as much demand for that right now from the publisher side.
Yeah, a good question is also, should you even follow the hype or do your own thing? I think in general, you should do your own thing, because once the hype is there, you're already too late, because you probably cannot make a game quick enough to compete. What's your opinion?
It's the thing of like, I'm just going to make my dream game and my dream game is going to sell. I think it also, you need to be lucky that your dream game is something that will sell.
Yeah.
For some people, their dream game is something that 4 people are interested in, including them, and then you're not going to sell much. I think some people, it also depends, because that's something to keep in mind with our audience. Are you making the game just like on the side? Are you actually running a studio, and do you actively need to earn money? Those things matter. If you actively need to earn money and you can't get a publisher, well, you can't probably make the game you want to make. So you have to do things, because the developers of Murky Divers, once again, they released the game shortly before as well. That completely flopped. It looks great and everything, but I think they barely got like a few hundred reviews. Let me actually see if I can pull it up. But they basically saved themselves by making that different game that has now sold enormously. Let's see. So they previously made a game, Straight Lights. It has 190 reviews. And Murky Divers, to give you an idea, is currently at, I think, 11,000 reviews. No, 1,000, sorry. But still massively out-earned in, I think, a quarter of the development time and things like that. So it's something to keep in mind as well.
Yep. Another one, and I'll answer this myself perhaps, is does Steam Family allow you to play co-op games with a single copy of a game? I don't know if that allows it, but a lot of games that do Steam remote play together. So you can basically play, if it has local co-op, then you only need one copy and Steam handles everything. It's a pretty cool feature of Steam that you don't need a second copy for. So if you see that on a Steam page, you're good with one copy.
Are you sure? I think you need 2 copies.
No,
I don't know. Don't quote us on this. I think this is something you need to look up yourself.
Yeah, double check it, but I'm pretty sure I've played it with William that way, like remote play
it seems
together.
like one developer has remote play together and you only need one copy. But
yeah,
I don't know. I cannot
double
make
check
a
it.
Statement on this.
Don't kill me.
Yeah. So maybe speaking of co-op games, we originally planned for these streams to be about an hour. We've already gone over that, but there's one more video or one more topic. You said it was going to be a banger topic, so I'm going to let you introduce it.
Yeah, so basically there's this big-ass post on howtomarketagame.com. It's the website from Chris Zukowski. Great site, you should probably check it. And it goes over everything related to Q2 sales in the game industry, basically. And it has a lot of cool topics, like just how much they sold. You can see here that it's just 2024, more games than ever. And as usual, Q1 has less delta between the two than in the end because there's just longer time. So it's pretty normal. But also, there's a part at the bottom where it's about sleeper hits, which is also very interesting. Yeah. Maybe... you want to tell a bit about this?
Yeah, so what do we mean by sleeper hits? It's basically the copium of every game developer. When looking at co-op games, it's stuff like that Among Us, where it released in 2017, barely anyone played it, then 2020 hit, and it's like, bam, now everyone is suddenly interested in this, everything is great, everything is awesome, and they made a crap ton of money from it. The thing is, it actually, they looked at the data in this article, it doesn't happen. Like a lot of developers are like, oh, I released my game, but it's not really launching, but I just need to add like the 1.1 update and whatever, and more people will play it, more people will be interested in it. The data says generally no. Like there are some games like listed in here where all of the games basically already had high review counts. If you don't have high review counts in the first month, you don't really just have as much chance to get that later growth, basically. One example pulled up is Oh Dear, which is like kind of a like social deduction hunting game, but it already got 600 reviews in the first month. So it's like, is it a sleeper hit? No, because it was already a semi-hit. But then a few months later, it jumped up to basically double to 1,200 reviews after a pretty flat curve until they basically entered in the Steam Next Fest. So yeah,
we see your co-op reappear here.
Co-op reappears. Like this article talks about more than just the sleeper hits, but I think sleeper hits was the most important topic I want to talk about here because go for it.
One other interesting graph I think is this one, which basically indicates, at least that's how I interpret it, there are always more games, but there are not more games reaching 1,000 reviews. That is pretty stagnant. So, which in my opinion means the competition is increasing, but the amount of people that actually succeed is still the same. So you basically have 3 times the competitors.
Talking about 1,000 plus reviews. Yes. That is what the article here accounts as a successful game.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a really insane stat because you have 3 times as much competitors, 3 times as much people. Let's put it in context. We're playing a gambling game because we're so good at it, right? We just saw how Monopoly Go does it. And you have a 1 in 10 chance to succeed. That's at least in 2016. So now 6 years later, you have a 1 in 30 chance to succeed. That's insane, huh?
I think there's still some issues with that metaphor because with gambling, you can't really control anything. You could pour your heart and soul out into a game, and you just have more people who are also pouring their heart and soul out into a game that you need to compete as well. And yeah, sure, there are like some people who just make some games and whatever, and they do it for whatever. Wait, what am I saying? There are just some people who make games, but they make kind of shit games, is the best way I can describe it. But there are also a lot of people who actually do honestly try to just make a good game, and they make generally decent games, but there's just 3 times as many people now making those decent and good games, basically.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, every year basically, your game has to be better if you want to have the same results, because the industry is not standing still, so neither should you. I think a metaphor you once used during a video is, if you were releasing Hollow Knight or Stardew Valley or whatever today, you would probably have a lot less success.
Yeah, that's like the thing. Like the secret to being successful on Steam is releasing before 2017. Because it was just way harder to get onto Steam to begin with. There were way less indie games. So if you did manage to go through that Steam Greenlight program, which was how it worked back then, there was just more eyeballs on you. That's what you see here as well with the graph. Like 10% of the games released back then got that 1,000 plus reviews in that year. Whereas now it's much more, because it's just a lot of games never get to that new and upcoming or like popular and trending and whatever, and get the 7,000 wish lists.
Yeah, so basically, I also love Chris Zukowski's wording here. So what does it mean? And it's just the first sentence is so great. Like, most games don't sell well.
And if I say this, I get canceled. But if he says it, it's like, oh, bow down to the great marketing god. But that's just the thing. It's like, don't think to yourself, maybe we're like Among Us. Maybe we're going to sell more later on. Did it work for us? Kinda. With the Forge Industry video, although that was about a month later, where Forge Industry didn't have massive success with launching. The thing is, we're talking about different scale at that point, where we're talking about going from 5 reviews to like 25, not from going from like 100 to 2,000 or something. So it's still very much different.
Yeah. Another thing they cover is the end of the action roguelike. So he famously 2.5 years ago wrote about how that's basically the genre to make, and it was a very profitable genre. A lot of people jumped up on it, and now it was like
what we
flooded.
talked about before, as well.
And that's, I mean, if you're watching this and you didn't start on your game yet and you want to make an action roguelike,
which
look
is
at
a
the
survivor
stats.
like as well and stuff. Don't
look
do
at
it.
the stats and probably reconsider.
Yeah. And I think those are all the topics we have for now, or like all the interesting ones at least.
Yeah. If you want to know about the adult percentage, there's also a section in that article over there.
Yeah, the article is just massive in general. There's a lot of good information in it. I linked it in chat already before. You can find it in the description after this video as well, with all of our sources.
Yes.
So definitely take a look at it. Also talks about like platformers, talks about a lot of stuff, all of the trends in general. So you can go a lot deeper. I just wanted to highlight there's no sleeper doc, basically, or there's no sleeper games, basically. So I think with that, Thomas, I have an idea for all of the people in chat right now. We're going to keep going. We're going to be doing a little bit of an after party, but everyone listening this later on as like the Spotify release or whatever, you're missing out. We'll just do some Q&A or whatever with some more people in chat. But thank you so much if you've been listening to this. We'll be doing these weekly, talking about game dev news, things like that.
Come say hi. We're live on Twitch and YouTube every week, normally, as long as you keep doing this.
Yeah. The channel name is BiteMe Games. If you had no clue, same way as BiteStream with an I, not with a Y. So not like a Java BiteStream, but a
Why no Y?
Yeah, that's a long story for a different stream. But anyways, thank you so much for listening, and let's head over to the after party.
BiteMe Games after dark. Nothing is changing for you guys. We're still here.
Nothing is changing for you guys, but this is just the point where I'm gonna cut the audio. So how did you guys enjoy this kind of stream? I think let's just have a little bit of a chat and answer some questions in the meantime. DobberX has a post. How much did the art for Forge Industry cost again? I guess he's talking here about our capsule art. It was $150. It's gone up now. There is a link in the Steam page mistakes video we did, I think, that goes to a Google Doc that I made with a lot of Steam capsule artist leads, different kinds of works that they did, and all of that. I'll see if I can pull up a link in the meantime. Thomas, can you create some more?
In the meantime, the people at Twitch, lovely guys. We said after party. I don't see a dino dance everywhere. What is going on? What is going on? Where is the dino dance? But yeah, on a more serious topic, we just do a Q&A. So let's take a look at what chat says. Yeah. People seems to like the stream, so that's nice. They like it because it's chill. Uh, and someone asks if they give us a better shader for a guild architect, if we will use it. What do we think?
I think I don't think we've actually set this on a stream or anything yet, but we're considering. Oh no, you talked about it. We were considering changing the shader. No.
Yeah, we're now using an asset for the shader. We are considering changing it with either something we make ourselves, mostly William then, because I don't do well with shaders. I don't think he does well with shaders either, but he wants to learn it at least, unlike me. So if you make a decent shader, we might use it, yes. But that's something you should probably message Marnix on Discord.
Yeah, it's also something where it's like, I don't know.
We don't like having our community work for us for free because it feels wrong. Yeah. That's also a thing. So it will probably be a commission then at least, but no yes or no answer.
Yeah, I think another question: do you guys think that the market will get so oversaturated people will just start releasing less games? The thing is, it's gotten so easy to make games that I don't actually see it changing much, because at the end of the day, the only people who would look at this and be like, from an objective standpoint, there is no way we compete in here and we're just going to move our money elsewhere, is like larger studios, like triple indie, maybe double A, triple A, because they have more of the analytical mindset. But if you're an indie dev and it's just like, I'm doing Godot or whatever, then that's they can keep making games. It's getting easier than ever. So
there's a question that I actually love, and it's from Carrie, which
got deleted, but we can bring.
Wait, I see it.
Oh, you can still see. Also, I can bring it back as well as a moderator.
I still see it, but basically he asked if we think we are losing focus, not focusing on games, but instead focusing on side efforts like streaming.
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Yeah, you go first.
This is the for example, Wednesday I did a coding stream, so I'm at least still working on the game. And on the other hand, this is probably the time that I would have sit down with Marnix and play like League of Legends or something. And instead we're spending the time here together because we like hanging out, we like talking. These are
this is our break.
Yeah, this is our break, basically. And in the meantime, we can hang out with you guys, grow the community. So it's basically a win-win-win at this moment. Yeah. With the only downside being we want to be consistent. So we want to keep this up. So that's basically the thing. Also, I checked the bot. I already think I put it down a bit so it was more lenient, but it doesn't seem like it did much.
Yeah, I'll like just timing out everyone. Sorry for that, guys. We've been trying to set up like Streamlabs and whatever.
Yeah, this is the first quote-unquote pro stream that we do, where we have a decent setup where we're not just screen sharing with our camera over top. Yeah. So we're still having some growing pains.
But I think my answer to that are we losing focus? It's something that I was considering as well. The thing is, these videos or like these streams, the stream, let's say, this doesn't cost us a lot of time. Like if I were to make a video takes a lot more time to edit, to script, to do all of that. Now I basically just throughout the week, I look at the gaming news regardless. Now I just put it in a Google Doc, and then for 1.5 hours or whatever on Saturday, we'll just live stream instead of playing a game of League. This is not really taking away taking away time from development for us. Like we are still working on it just as much. So if you love to see this format once a week, I have good news for you, because that's the schedule we want to go for right now.
Whether you like it or not, we're shoving it down your throat anyway. Someone else said that the stream was interesting, but art for chat hides the text. Yeah, we are working on it.
Yeah, we're learning a lot from this as well. Or do we have planned that period? I'm looking up the dates right now. November 14, 15. No, we can technically go.
We're back like the 12th or so.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if that is going to be a good return on investment.
I don't have any holidays I can still take from my main job.
Yeah, if we go, it would probably be just sending me solo.
For videos.
But I wouldn't expect going. We're also not going to Unity Unite for the same reason. But guys, before we continue answering questions, to the boys on YouTube, we only have about 40 likes, yet we have 60 people watching. So do me a favor and hit the like button down below. I want to see it go up.
Are you discriminating again against Twitch people?
No,
only
Twitch
asking
them
to do it. Yeah, they can't like, but they can follow. Just
They can follow as well if they're in here. But yeah, just it makes me happy. It makes me sleep at night. So if you want to do us a favor, hit the like button. Damn, we already got 7 likes on top of it now. So that's
there
great.
we go. And if you're on Twitch and hit a follow, your name should appear. Oh, this is hard to do. Over there, somewhere. This is trippy. So yeah, do make sure to also follow and subscribe on YouTube.
We still have a lot of plans with the streams. I have an update also. I did commission Chibi Thomas emotes. So if you become a YouTube member, or soon I think also on Twitch, you'll be able to get some cute Thomas emotes to react instead of the default dino dances. So keep your eyes open for that.
Is there a reveal?
No, not yet. I think by next week we should have some. If we're in the Discord, I'll share in the Discord, because right now they're still in the sketch phase. But in the Discord, definitely keep your eyes peeled on that. I'll probably share it plenty of times there.
Yeah. Alessander says only 29 more followers needed. I think you only need 50, right?
No, we're talking about the goal to get 100.
Oh,
I think
yeah. Yeah.
Goal.
Yes. But yes, go ahead. We need more.
We need more followers. It makes us feel more validated.
Yeah, it feels like we're actually doing something useful instead of wasting our time talking to a camera.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any more questions, but otherwise, I think we can wrap this up, and we'll see what we'll do. But thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Stay hydrated, very important. And back to working on your game. I think there's actually more of an issue where we have to deal with the moral consequence of we have like 60, 65, 70 viewers the entire stream.
69 live right now, by the way.
Yeah,
combined.
Haven't been able to work on their game for 1.5 hours or something. And I think that is actually more of a problem. Our Discord and Twitch stream should be linked. Is it not, Dobrex? Am I just...
Also,
there is no description. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
Okay, but you can also use the commands !Discord to get it in chat. It should work on both YouTube and Twitch, if I set it up correctly.
I don't think you did.
Well, it should work on Twitch at least. Let's go.
It works. Just very delayed.
It works.
Great. It seems like I still have to figure out how YouTube works as well, because they treat this as a podcast, which is why we didn't have.
Now people, I see like a couple of them.
7 Discords. Also, yeah, you can.
Same for Patreon, by the way.
So, yeah.
All right. So you want to wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up, and because it's also getting later here in Belgium. So.
Yeah, and
thank you so much for watching, guys.
Let us know if this was a great time for you, or what you want to see improved. Leave it in the Discord.
Yeah. Also, if you have in our Discord, there's a channel called BiteStream as well, where you can leave your own articles if you feel like, hey, this is something that would be interesting. The plan is to focus on game development, so not like, oh, my indie game is coming up this week, please talk about it. That's not what we're going to be doing. We're just going to be talking more about
the game industry,
entire industry. That's the goal here.
Yes. So let us know there, and thank you so much for watching. Are we going to do it synchronized, Marnix? Like in videos? Yes, together.
You ready? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.